Okay, it seems like we're getting to that we can go ahead and get started. My name is Quincy and I'm with the Houston SCORE chapter. And we're gonna go ahead and get started with this webinar. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little bit about SCORE just in case you haven't heard much about them, okay? About us. SCORE is a national nonprofit with over 300 chapters and 11,000 volunteers nationwide. We have 1 million entrepreneurs since we started. One of the great features about SCORE, we have mentors. And with the SCORE mentor, you can meet one-on-one with an expert business mentor and different special business. We advise, we educate, and we encourage business leaders to develop and become successful in their business. You can request a free mentor at houston.org. Once again, I said a free mentor at houston.org. As well as go to that same web for other workshops, just such as this one and others that we have going on throughout the month and the year. Now, one, like I said about the mentors, and some people forget to always have questions, but we have a lot of business plan templates, cash flow analysis templates, and all those are free and accessible through our website, houston.score.org. As always, we are affiliated with the SBA, so please our district SBA office. You can always do so by visiting them on the website. So go look for the Houston office and you will find them. With that being said, I'm going to pass this over to our presenter and he's going to take it the rest of the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Adam Gorman has been a presenter for SCORE for so many years. I've worked with Adam in many respects. He has a lot of experience in not only franchising, he had his own business, he has a lot of information. You know, starting a franchise sounds easy to you, but it's not that easy. But at the same time, it's not an impassable situation. You need someone like Adam to guide you through the process of starting working in a franchise. What is it that you do right? What is it that you may slip and not do right? What your expectations are supposed to be. And as usual, SCORE is always there to help you. We can direct you to someone like Adam or other people and help you with it. So what we want, as Quincy mentioned, is SCORE is there for you, whether you're thinking of starting, or you want to expand your business in different areas. So be sure to send us, if you don't have a mentor, register for a mentor. If you need anything in education, you can always send me an email, either for the recording or for any other thing. Attend the webinars, learn how to do it, and come by our office. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. At 8701 South Gessner. We are there to help you. And Adam, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lalitha. Good morning, everyone. Let me go ahead and get my presentation started here. So look, here I want to talk about how to find the right franchise business, right? So John Rockefeller once said that the secret to career satisfaction is to find something that you really like and then do it well, right? And then kind of put your whole energy into it. Kind of like find your own basket, put all your eggs in that one basket and protect that basket. And so in my opinion, there really are three options when it comes to a career, right? The first option is to have a job and to stick with that job. The second option is to actually go alone and become an entrepreneur, start your own business somehow. Entrepreneurship is very hot these days. We can talk about that a little bit later. And the third one is something that is franchising, right? And what I mean by that is to something where you're your own boss, but you don't have to be in alone. You get a system, a process, and a brand from another company. And so there's some advantages of a job, right? first advantage of a job is number one, you get a steady paycheck. Number two, you receive benefits. And number three, you have security. You can wake up every morning and sure enough, most likely, although now in 2023, that's not as likely as it used to be, but typically it used to be that you could have a job for life. If you work for IBM, you might work there for 20 or 30 or 40 years. But the challenges of a job are that you have limited freedom. One of the things that I hear all the time, I have friends that are in corporate America, and they tell me one of the biggest challenges is they don't have freedom. They can't go on trips when they want to go on trips. Even if they have to work from home, they're still expected to be on. And it's hard for them to go to their kids' baseball games or things of that sort. It's also a situation where they have limited earning potential. Whatever amount you make, it's always a slog to actually get a raise, especially in these times, right? And it's also a situation too where benefits keep on getting cut back. It used to be that you get a great pension. That isn't the case anymore. And so other things that we have now is the challenge is the lack of security. You could be laid off at any time. Many people that I talk to, they say they can't stand their boss, right? Really not fun to work for bosses in general. And also the company, one of the things that I hear all the time, I've been doing this role in this industry for 13 years now. I've had this role for 6.5 years. People tell me, hey, I'm tired of making other people rich, right? So that's another disadvantage of a job. Now, some of the advantages of entrepreneurship, let's talk about it. You look on Instagram, everyone's like, hey, look at me. I've gone ahead and I have this amazing business idea and look at me, I'm on my own and here I am starting a business. Well, that's interesting, exciting, right? You get to be your own boss, right? You can have this idea, you can build it from scratch. You are the boss. You get to choose what time you wake up in the morning or not wake up. It's all on your shoulders as an entrepreneur, which is really, really exciting. But the challenge is number one, you need to come up with that idea. A lot of people I talk to, when I ask them this question, hey, why don't you go out and start your own business, right? They tell me, I just don't have an idea. You get to come up with, you need to come up with a plan. There's an amazing book, one of my favorites ever, called The E-Myth by Gerber. And one of the things he talks about is that the skill set to start a company is a lot different than one that than people really realize, right? And a lot of it's very process oriented. So for instance, you might be the most amazing baker in the world, but do you have your CPA license? Are you good? Do you actually have good processes? Are you okay with delegating and creating a system or a handbook or a manual? Because if not, then you're not only going to be the CEO of your bakery, you're going to be the CEO, the secretary, the baker, all these other things. So people get bogged down in the details, right? And so what I would say too is that unfortunately in entrepreneurship, there's a really high level of failure. People say anything is upwards of 90% plus for people that start businesses on their own. And so I want to talk today a little bit more about franchising. There are a lot of misconceptions in the franchising world. Franchising by definition means that you get a brand and you get a system in exchange for payments in the form of royalty payments and franchise fees. And the misconception about franchising is people, when they hear the word franchising, the first thing they think is, oh, Chick-fil-A, right? Restaurants. And that's true. There are a lot of restaurant related franchises. But I work with 200 pre-screened brands in 75 industries. Only one of those 75 is food. So it's interesting, kind of whatever car you might drive, you notice, hey, everyone else is driving the same car. As someone like myself, who's an expert in the franchising world, I wake up in the morning and I see all these businesses that I didn't realize that were franchises, and they are franchises. Things such as auto repair, or things such as fitness related concepts, or maybe even something that's related to health that I've gone to a clinic that's a franchise. And so one of the advantages of franchises is you get the experience of a franchisor. They give you a system. And they also give you ongoing training and support. You also get group buying power. What I mean by that is that if you were to buy something on your own, then that's very expensive, right? But if you have 50 other franchisees or 500 other franchisees, you have power to get your supplies at a discounted rate. You also have the advantage of research and development from the head office. You have advantage of a peer group of brothers and sisters in arms, where you're not seen as competitors. I don't know if you know this, but if with McDonald's, the top innovations came from their franchise system. Things such as the McFlurry and the Egg McMuffin were innovations by local franchisees, and they were able to go ahead and to pass those benefits on to other franchisees as well. And you can go ahead and advertise directly. I'm excited about the Astros this year. It looks like they've had a great run these past couple of days, right? I looked in the outfield last year and I saw a franchise that was advertised there. Tell me how easy it is if you own your own business only, if you can advertise on national television or in the outfield of the World Series. By being part of a system, you could go ahead and advertise together. One of the things that's also exciting about franchising is it's one of the only industries where if you come and you say, hey, look, I have no experience at all, the franchise brand says, that's awesome, because they actually don't want you to have experience in the business. They want to train you how to do it their way. They're actually afraid if you already have previous experience that it won't be their specific kind of experience that they're looking for, or you might learn the wrong way. And they also give you brand name recognition, right? Everyone's heard of McDonald's, everyone's heard of Chick-fil-A, right? There are all these other brands that you probably didn't know were franchises that are franchises that have brand name recognition, right? So one of the challenges of franchising, and look, franchises are not right for everyone, is that you got to be part of a system, right? You have to follow what the franchise brand says. You can't open a McDonald's, change the golden arches to golden triangles and start selling gyros there, right? There's the risk, just like anything in business, not all franchises work, right? What happens is when you do your due diligence, you can find out, but if you don't do the work, then you're not going to succeed. And I really think that a franchise is you're going ahead and you're going almost, what you're doing is you need to be able to work with the franchisor. I think culture is very important in the franchising world. So it's got to be a cultural fit as well, right? So what I would also say is that there are two schools of thought when it comes to franchising. The first one is that I'm going to put my money in and the franchise brand is going to do everything. And I just have to put my money in. I'm a silent investor. The second school of thought are people that say, look, you know, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pay this royalty fee, but they're really not going to do anything at all, the franchise brand. I think that the reality is somewhere in between, right? Franchise brands are going to do certain things for you. They're going to give you a system, they're going to give you support, but you really need to make it happen. So the other things that are challenging is that you got to pay fees and you got to actually manage the business. People ask me all the time, they say, hey, Adam, is there anything as an absentee or totally hands-off business? I have businesses that have no employees or that you kind of manage on a hands-off basis with a manager, but I don't really have anything that's 0 hours per week, right? That's the kind of thing that you might invest in an index fund. And so let's talk about how big franchising is. It's $1.5 trillion of economic activity. It's 11% of all employees in the United States. And that actually 13.7% of private sector employment. And franchising has been growing a lot, right? There are thousands of brands. We have a stock market that tanked last year, right? We have corporations that even with a bull market this year, we have a situation where people in the tech industry are firing a lot of people. We have an uncertain energy industry. And so it's also the kind of thing too, where it's just an exciting situation to be in where you can start your business quickly and go ahead and get things going. Whereas if you were to go, it's interesting, the amount of money people are able to save in mistakes they haven't made, competitors that they're not kowtowing to, by having this amazing system and playbook, just an amazing way to save money when you're starting a business. It's also a situation where people are looking, they see franchises as an asset, right? They're able to resell it. I'm proof to that. I started my own successful franchise in office cleaning, and I was able to resell that, right? So it's the kind of thing where people don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, right? It's something where they're able to create multiple streams of income. They see this as an investment strategy where they might have investments in the stock market, but also have an investment in a franchise as well. And there are over 3,000 different franchises in the United States, 3,000 right? 565,000 owners in the United States in 75 industries. So it's a big, big market, right? And so you're probably asking me, hey, Adam, if this is so great, right? Why would a company even offer a franchise brand? Why don't they just go ahead and set up a corporate store somewhere? Maybe they're expanding. And look, I have experience in this. What I would say is that certain brands have realized that when you compare the power of entrepreneurship, when you have someone that's an entrepreneur, that's running their own business, that treats it as their own, because frankly, it is their own business, then that all day long does better than an actual location. It's a corporate store where you have an employee that doesn't care as much about this. So from their point of view, when they have a situation, they have tens or hundreds or even thousands of people that are entrepreneurs that care as much about the brand as the head owner, or sometimes even more the head office, that's a win-win situation for them as well, right? So what I would say is, the question I get all the time is, hey, Adam, what's hot right now? And I'm sure you're probably thinking that as well. And the other thing that the question I get all the time is, Adam, have you seen Crumble Cookie, right? Or Chick-fil-A? I saw there's a huge line. And it's interesting because just because something's hot doesn't mean it's the right fit for you, right? So when you're choosing the right franchise, the question that you need to ask yourself is, are you really going ahead? How many hours per week? How are you going to be hands-on? Are you going to be hands-off? Are you looking to keep your day job? Are you in transition? Are you looking to do this full-time? What is your motivations? What's your why, right? Because it's a big investment to buy a franchise. And, it's got to be the right time for you in order to do this. And so you got to ask yourself these questions, right? Why do you want to own it? Why now, right? How would your life be different if you invested in a franchise? As I mentioned, people buy these things when they want to change something in their life. There's got to be a big why in order to do something like this. The question I have for you, or that you got to ask yourself, is how much can you invest? Look, everyone's seen these different brands that say, hey, if you invest $10,000, you get a franchise. I'm here to tell you that those are few and far between, right? That doesn't really exist very much. And if you only invest 10,000, you're not really an owner. It's almost like you're buying a job. Most franchise brands require people to have $50,000 in cash and at least $150,000 in net worth. There are some exceptions to that. And you could use your 401k or things of that sort. We'll talk about this a little bit later. There is financing available through an SBA loan or a rollover or commercial loans. But you got to ask yourself, how much could you afford to invest, right? Are you going to do this on your own, or are you going to do this with partners, right? Do you have friends or family that might want to invest with you? How much are you able to borrow? What is your credit score, right? And the other question is, how much money do you need to make by when? I want to make sure when I talk to candidates that they have the right sort of expectations from a financial point of view. I've had people come to me and say, hey, I need to get all my money back within 2 to 3 months. And that's really unrealistic, right? It's just hard to make that money back so soon. Now I have things that really cash flow quite quickly, right? But you've got to have a set of financial parameters and a realistic expectation about how to get money back from the business. Here I'm talking about the different financing options for franchises. The majority of people use a rollover, or they use an SBA loan, or they might use home equity. There are different ways to finance this. These are some of the ways right here. Some franchise brands actually finance in-house certain things like equipment. And look, there's a misconception in my industry. That misconception is to make a lot of money. Some people say that you need to spend lots of money to make lots of money. All day long, I have relatively inexpensive service businesses that are under $200,000 all in that are able to be scaled. In fact, I have a friend who invested in a service business, and he built it into an 8-figure business, meaning a business over $10 million a year in actual revenue, right? And he was able to scale it without putting much money into the business to begin with. So the second step is, how do you find out how much money you're going to make, right? And so what's interesting about this is that one of the great things about franchises is you can actually go ahead and call every single person that's a franchisee and see what they have to say. And they can, and sometimes, frankly, there's a disconnect between what the franchise brand tells you and what these people that are existing franchisees say. I believe strongly in the 80-20 rule, meaning that 20% of all franchisees make 80% of the profits, right? So the idea is to find people like you that are in that top 20% in a market like Houston, and see what they have to say, right? Maybe someone's in Dallas that has the same sort of background as you. And by talking to these people, you can really find out about what's going on in the business and really get to, because these people, they really don't care if you buy or not, right? It's different than talking to a salesperson. And so the other thing is, ask yourself, what do you want to, how do you want to exit the business? Maybe your exit strategy is to create this as a source of residual income where you're not in the business, right? But you're more on the business. And maybe you manage a manager for a few hours per month, right? And just kind of see where things go. Maybe you want to sell this business. One of the best places to sell a successful franchise business is to other people that are inside of the franchise. Maybe one of the franchisees that's really doing well wants to go ahead and expand the Houston market or somewhere else. And so just different questions. The other thing that's interesting is that a lot of misconception people have about franchises is they think that they're all brick and mortar or retail or storefront. And there are many franchises that are non-brick and mortar, right? That are service businesses, which are less expensive to start typically, and don't have an expensive lease that you need to put a personal guarantee on. And so the question is, when it comes to timing, right? Some people kind of get tripped up. And the way they get tripped up is they say, hey, look, I want my business to start in 1 year. That's different than when do you want to sign, right? Sometimes it makes sense to sign, pay, and negotiate when the actual launch is. But when it comes to an actual brick and mortar retail location, it's going to take you 6, 9, even 12 months plus to find that right location, right? So the question is, when do you actually want to actually open? And then you kind of have to backtrack from there. If you want to start 1 year from now, then you probably have to actually go ahead and sign within a couple months to actually meet your timeline if it's a brick and mortar location. What's your timing, right? Are you in the situation where, and some businesses are seasonal, right? Probably not a great idea to start a mosquito spraying business in the middle of December because not much demand for your service. But maybe it does make sense to start in January because you kind of get ready to go and take a couple months to launch. So timing is very important. And so the other thing is ideal business characteristics. It's interesting. I really think of businesses as characteristics now. I ask myself, is this a business that I can run on the side? Do I need sales skills to do this? How many employees does my business have, right? Are they blue collar? Are they white collar employees? Are there a lot of them? How does this work out, right? So that's important to figure out the right ideal business characteristics when you're doing this. I believe that a lot of people that search for franchises do it the wrong way. What they do is they go and they might see a billboard or get some sort of unsolicited message on LinkedIn about a specific brand, and they investigate deeply into that specific brand, even if it's not a good fit. There are certain things that really, frankly, should be deal killers for anyone. Things such as how many hours you would work or how many employees you want or your investment level. And imagine how much of a waste of time it is to really dig deep in one brand just because they've reached out to you on LinkedIn and then realize a few weeks into the process, oh my gosh, this investment's too high, right? So the idea also is to figure out that right business model. Right. So we have two different types of model. We have an executive model, or we call it a semi-absentee model, where you have a manager running the business. And we also have the owner-operator model, which is more hands-on. You're typically not allowed to have a day job for the owner-operator model. And you're just kind of in the business as opposed to being on the business. Now, the advantage of owner-operator is you don't, frankly, have to pay a salary for a manager, right? And the other thing is that there are different types of businesses as well. We have, as I mentioned, we have brick and mortar retail, but we have service businesses, anything like mosquito spraying or home services, painting companies, right? There's advantages to this that are typically a lower investment. And then we have the retail, right? which typically is a higher investment. It's easier to finance. You can scale it, but it's typically open 7 days a week. Even though you're not expected to be there all 6 or 7 days, that adds a degree of complexity when you're hiring employees to be there. So as I mentioned before, the expectation of a franchise brand, what kind of things are they going to give you as a brand? They're going to be giving you assistance when you're pre-opening. In fact, if you're starting a brick and mortar business, a big part of the strategy is to actually have as many people signed up before you actually open your doors. That's really it's a great place to be, because you could even open your store in a great position if it's a fitness type or a subscription-based model. They're going to give you training. They're going to help you to find the right site, and they're going to give you manuals. As I mentioned, there's a network of other people like you in a typical franchise. If you're a McDonald's or Chick-fil-A franchisee, you're not alone. You have hundreds of other franchisees as well. They're going to go ahead and help you with different marketing and systems and R&D. There's buying power. There are regional meetings and national conventions and ongoing training and support. And so let's talk about how my system works when I'm working with my candidates. And as Lalitha mentioned earlier, my service is totally free as well. If I make a successful match, it's the franchise brand that pays me a commission, not you, right? So let's talk about the system. So what happens is that you're able to conduct comprehensive franchisor investigations. What's going to happen is, number one, they're going to give you a disclosure document. Number two, you're going to go ahead and talk to existing franchisees. When we get to that stage together, I'm going to give you a list of questions to ask them. Number three, you'll review the systems and documentation from the franchisor. And number four, you go to a meet the team day with the franchise brand. And I've been on really good meet the team days. I've been on really bad meet the team days too, right? So as I mentioned, culture is really important. You'll learn a lot by going and meeting with them in person. And so the questions to ask yourself to figure out whether or not franchising is right for you is, number one, are you willing to follow a system? Some people I talk to, they just are too entrepreneurial for franchising. It's a different skill set to go out and start your own business than it is to actually go out and follow someone else's rules. Some people just don't want to follow a system. They want to have the flexibility of that. Number two, do you like dealing with people? I don't care if you're the kind of person that wants to be behind a desk 8 hours a day. You still need to deal with people in general. Do you have the right financial resources for this? And do you believe in the product that you're potentially selling? And so the sixth step is to actually go ahead, evaluate the facts, and get all your questions answered, and conquer your fear and make a decision. So question is, how can you take advantage of the free service that's offered by Franchise Coach? So as I mentioned, we're a free service. Our role is to narrow your search from the thousands of brands out there to the top 3, right? And our goal is to give you things that you probably didn't think of, but to give you different business models. I'm always amazed that out of the 3 that I give my candidates, they kind of gravitate towards something I never thought they might gravitate towards before because of their business characteristics. And my goal is to give you things they didn't think of before. Things like never thought of opportunities. We're trying to really, really find out your motivation. We see ourselves as being people that are here to make matches, almost like a dating type situation, matchmakers. And we're trying to create, our model works, right? Our system works. And we're going to here to give you 3 pre-screened companies. And I'm really here in general as someone to help evaluate your situation. I'm here to be your free guide and resource. And I want to be an extension of your franchising efforts. And I want to help you find the right franchise. So look, I'm happy to open up the Q&A. I don't have links to the chat box. Just wanted to kind of go from here. Okay, so yeah, great. So we have some questions here. So Brianna asked, is it reasonable to finance startup costs or should you be liquid? Well, let me make sure I understand the question. think the question is, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, is are you able to finance the startup costs totally from loans? And the answer is unfortunately a no. Typically, you need to actually put some of your own skin in the game. And that's why most franchise brands are looking for people that have at least $50,000 in cash and $150,000 in net worth of their house. Now, the good news is that people I see all the time that are in kind of a tough spot financially, they get either friends or family members to be financial partners, where they're not really necessarily even involved in the business, but they're there to kind of give financial support to you to help you out. Anyone else have any other questions? Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. I think I have a new one. Let me see this. Okay, so yeah, thank you. All right, this is from Jason. The question is, what were the 3 models again? Well, there really are 2 models, right? Let's talk about the models, right? There was the owner-operator model, and then there's the executive model, right? Executive model is also a semi-absentee model, right? So an owner-operator model is one where you're going ahead and you're running this business on your own without the help of a manager. You are the manager. The semi-absentee one is one where you're hiring someone else to run it for you. Typically, owner-operator businesses will not allow you to run a business while you have a day job. Now, just because something starts out as an owner-operator doesn't mean it's going to be an owner-operator in 5 or 10 years or 2 years or 1 year. But those are the 2 models, semi-absentee or owner-operator. I hope that was helpful. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay. So have you ever approached that's okay. Have you ever approached a business that wasn't already a franchise to ask they're open to that opportunity? So look, that's a great question. My role is to take these existing franchise brands and to help them to go ahead and to find franchisees. One of the big misconceptions in my industry from the franchisor side is people think it's very inexpensive to become a franchisor like Chick-fil-A, right? That's a really, really difficult, expensive opportunity to actually become a franchise brand, a franchisor. I'm not as involved on that side, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even if it's the most amazing idea ever, it's a different skill set to actually create this brand that goes nationwide or international than having 1 or 2 things that work out great. So that's my take on that. It's a lot more expensive than people really think that it would be. Hello.
Okay. So it looks like everything is clear. If they don't have any more questions, I'd like to just basically say thank you all for coming out. And if you have, you can always email us at lalitha.rahman@scorevolunteer.com and get a copy of the presentation, or just as well as you see Mr. Goldman's information here. Once again, Mr. Goldman, thank you so much for coming out, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye now.